Hello and welcome to the show. This week's Failrace versus the community, we would go racing with E-Class front-wheel drive cars. Our first race was at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit in rather, adverse conditions as we all run through this opening corner. The Scirocco we're following gets a bit up on two wheels. There certainly was some concern with the vicious curbs around this track and, of course, the wet conditions. Cars rolling, especially at turn one, was not completely out of the realms of possibility. Very, very busy on this opening lap, as it often is, but especially with these sort of cars. The Volkswagen here getting a good exit out of turn three, gets to the inside of the Peugeot, would out-drag him down towards these final couple of corners. The Scirocco runs out of space a little bit. There is a lot of cars trying to fit into this final turn. The Peugeot is back up the inside. There's a Fiesta stuck on the outside that's going to get hung out to dry around this last corner. The Peugeot's up a position, but would struggle to match the Volkswagen in terms of straight line speed, and also puddles. Puddles on the inside, and of course there you see the Peugeot get a huge twitch, very nearly loses another couple of places. A Civic's to the outside. Yeah, getting stuck on that inside. There is some seriously nasty puddles down there. A Civic up ahead gets a little bit of a twitch stuck out on the curb, would slow him and Clio down. Clio would just run out of space and get dumped back a huge number of places. Scirocco would find himself up into fourth place. The Peugeot was coming through the order as well, as there's still battling going on further back at the front. My Golf, I'd got a very, very good start. I had held the lead briefly, but the Scirocco I was racing with did come back. My Volkswagen was considerably faster in a straight line in this battle. The Scirocco good around the corners, but was struggling with a lack of straight line speed. I dived to the inside for turn one, but the Scirocco, good grip, could hold it around the outside, and me trying to give him space left a little bit too much. I fighted across the puddle, a huge twitch from the Golf. Fortunately, because, we're in E-Class cars, not massively fast, is perfectly okay to gather it all back up. I do get the lead briefly. Scirocco still fighting back, goes for the cutback on the exit, does draw alongside, can't quite do anything as of yet, but is going for a better exit out of turn three. I'm trying to make the most of my acceleration in the Mark II Golf. I'm stuck out wide though, and I don't quite turn in soon enough and would probably lose the lead. And this was just slowing us down, backing us in to the on-rushing pack that was being led by an Aztec, of all cars. Further back, and there was still much excitement going on. I love lower class racing. I think you get some of the most fun racing, some of the closest racing goes on with these lower class cars. Yes, they don't have crazy power figures, but it doesn't matter when you have a huge group of them racing together. The Aztec put a rear wheel on the grass. We've seen so many times. It gets a massive slide. Does well to gather it all back up. Of course, helped front-wheel drive cars. Once it starts sliding, you boot it, and it will straighten itself. The Clio got a little bit held up in all of that. The Astra could be the one to profit, as did the blue Civic, jumping up a couple of places. In fact, the Civic is to the inside of the Astra as they leave the final turn. The Honda, though, struggling in terms of straight line speed. The Astra plenty quick enough as they run down towards turn one. The Civic coming under fire from the Clio, in fact, as they head towards this first corner, although they are much quicker through the turns than that Vauxhall. At the front, and still the battle for the lead raged on, and it had backed us up into third place. The Aztec had been overtaken, and it was very much Volkswagen domination going on here at the front, as my Golf would yet again, this time not quite getting on the puddles on the run up towards turn two. I couldn't quite do it though. I wasn't far enough alongside the Scirocco to get the move done, although I was quick on the exit, still trying to make the point, but I'm stuck on the outside and I can't carry the corner speed of the two other cars. The white Scirocco is to the inside as we go three wide down towards this final corner. Both of us mugging the original leader with his just slight lack of straight line speed was costing him and making it difficult to defend, especially when there's so many cars. We're all boxing him in and just can't make the most of his cornering speed. at this final turn, and trouble would strike again as a Fiesta came from a fairway back. And of course, this fight was not helping us in terms of running away from the field. The Fiesta would pounce, move his way up into third. Volkswagen domination a little bit more disjointed here, and things would go terribly wrong for fourth place. I said the curb was dangerous, and it is a big tumble from the Scirocco. Unfortunately, the replay camera not great at this turn, but that is a big roll. I thought somebody might go. I'm surprised that it was a Scirocco of all cars, but that's a big accident. I watched that one in the rearview mirror. Quite an impressive tumble, no doubt. The Peugeot would find himself stuck up behind the back of an Aztec. Not the greatest of places to be. Perhaps better than being in front of it. You don't have to look at the front of the, the Aztec. Either way, as they rounded this final corner, the Peugeot does get to the inside. This time not going on the puddle. The Fiesta manages to get a great run down on the inside, managing to avoid the puddles, and is keen on following the Peugeot through. When you're racing in these such a low class of cars, and you're racing in a big group like this, we've seen it so many times. When one car opens the door, all the vehicles behind are more than happy to dive through and try and make up positions. And in this class of car, when everything is pretty even, you got to make the most of these opportunities. The Peugeot and Aztec swapping some paint. There was a little bit of a bump from the Pontiac, which was immediately repaid by the Peugeot. The Peugeot would get the move done. The Fiesta, little too far back to really profit from all of that. It was still going on at the front. It was a fantastically close race between all of us. The Scirocco was leading the way. The Fiesta in second, looking for a way past. My Golf in third. The Aztec had caught up in fourth, and fifth and sixth were also catching as we fought for position here so vigorously. Fifth and sixth were coming to join us. The Fiesta spots a gap to dive up the inside. The Scirocco just doesn't quite cover the inside well enough, and the Ford would be through for the lead as we head now onto the start-finish straight. I was wanting to try and take advantage. I made a little mistake into turn 3, hence why I dropped back to third. I was wanting to try and take advantage, but wasn't quite in a good enough place. The two leaders fight side by side through turn 1. The Fiesta carrying great speed around the outside. Got to be careful of that curb, though. Easy to spin cars on that curve. Fiesta defends up into the second corner, but I'm struggling to make the most of any fighting going on ahead because, well, I've got an Aztec directly behind me. The Civic and Fiesta are also coming to join in the fun. However, this is the order that the top cars would finish. It was one hell of a race, a lot of fun, as the top 6 all within a couple of seconds. The Fiesta would sneak the victory, having been Volkswagen domination for so long in this race. The Ford would claim victory. Scirocco in second, My Golf in third. Aztec did fantastic to end up in fourth, head of a Civic and another Fiesta. A highly enjoyable race. This one, low-class racing at its very best. The other Pontiac was trying to hang on to positions in this closing stages of the race, coming under fire from yet another Civic. The Civic proved to be quite a popular car as we round this final corner. The Honda trying his best to get to the inside, and they've got to be careful, of course, as with most of the battles going on, there's another car ready and waiting to pounce should anything untoward unfold. Unfortunately for that Volkswagen, he gets caught on the puddles and spun across the line. The Civic would get the position and beat the Pontiac. One hell of an opening race at Brands Hatch. Proved a lot of fun, even in the very wet conditions. Race number 2, and we would move on to the Lime Rock circuit. A lot of cars trying to fit into it's a relatively wide, not the worst turn 1 that we go to. That is for sure. Mini gets a big twitch through that corner as a Golf has to go for a little bit of an exploration. The Mark III Golf that we are following at the moment had a relatively clean start, busy being surrounded by Fiestas trying to get to the inside. Lime Rock is very fast as I'm going around the outside of a limo. Lime Rock is a very quick circuit. Aside from turn 1, the rest of these turns, especially when you're in an E-Class car, very little in the way of braking. It is tough to get passes done, as this Golf was finding out, and as everyone was finding out on this opening lap. The Fiesta looking for a way past the Civic up ahead, but just couldn't really do anything about it. As we round the final turn, the Golf we're following has got to be ready, cover that inside from the Fiesta behind. I had got a mega run around the final turn, outdragged the Mini, although the Mini would dive into the pits. This was our race featuring one mandatory pit stop. As we come down towards turn 1, it was almost 3 wide between me and another Golf and a Civic. I realised the gap is going to evaporate there, and we'll have to sit in line and wait, but I only had to wait another corner. My fellow Mark II Golf got tangled up behind another Civic. I would pounce, make up 2 positions in one corner, moving my way up through the field quite nicely. Now I had another Civic up ahead, and behind me there was more Civics fighting with more Volkswagens. Better straight line speed in my Golf would put me past down this relatively short straight. The Fiesta up ahead would get too much on the curb, end up out wide. The Golf was also keen to follow me through the order. Again, you know, I opened the door on the inside of these vehicles. Cars behind, if they're smart, keen to follow me through, makes it a little bit easier to make up positions. Sure enough, the other Golf was working his way past the Civic and Fiesta. Now, quite a few cars opted to dive in the pits relatively early on. These 2 Civics had taken early pit stops and come out stuck behind a limo. The limos, I was actually expecting to see a few more. It can actually be quite decent in terms of lap speed, certainly in the lower classes. Yes, they are big, they are heavy. Does tend to make them quite difficult to overtake, as these Hondas were finding out. They also do tend to be very, very fast in terms of straight line speed compared to the sort of cars they are racing against. The 2 Hondas going side by side as another car leaves the pit lane into turn 1. Of course, the downside of the limos being bigger and heavier, they don't have the corner grip, and this Civic was absolutely flying through the turns around the outside of the opening corner. To the inside of the second part, the limo has no real response. You can pull away when it comes to the straights, but it's just not quick enough through the turns. One Civic would be through, the other Civic though was unable to pass. At the front, I hadn't done my customary dive into the pits at the very early stages. I was quite content actually working my way through the order, although as I got up into 3rd place, the other Mark II Golf following me through got a little bit tangled up behind a Mark I Golf. I opted to dive into the pits, get my pit stop out of the way and try and avoid the sort of the close racing that was likely to slow myself down. I perhaps wasn't the smartest idea, seeing how easily this other Mark II breezed past the other car in terms of straight line speed, whether it was quite necessary to dive in the pits. I figured get myself out of trouble, take my pit stop and then run in clean air, try and set as fast a laps as possible while this car was going to stay out, and he'd stay out another couple of laps before diving into the pit. And it was expected to be quite close between me and him. Obviously, I must have done a fantastic job on my outlap, as the white Mark II would come out back in 4th place. The Mark I had managed to leapfrog him in the pit lane, although he was a little bit quicker when it came to the corners and immediately is putting that Mark I Golf under pressure. Civic not far behind and is around the outside. Good overtake from the other white Mark II to get that position. Actually slows the Rabbit down a fair amount, and that would put him under pressure from the Civic behind. Further back, field a little bit more spread out in this one than we had seen at Brands Hatch. Perhaps not massively surprising here. This Civic keen to make up a position. We'd seen how fast it had been through these opening couple of corners. Was so quick through these turns. It lacked straight line speed, yes, but when you can go this fast through the turns, it doesn't really matter. Another good overtake through these opening sections. Of course, got to be wary. The Golf is likely to be fast down this back sort of kind of straight. Not very long straights around here. Couldn't make the most of the Golf straight line speed, and the Civic would be through. At the front, it was very much Volkswagen domination this time out. The Scirocco would go on to take victory, led from the off. I was very gradually catching him, but it was never going to be enough in the closing laps. Scirocco take victory from the 2 Mark II Golfs in 2nd and 3rd. 4th would go to the Civic, while 5th would go to the Mark I Golf. Very much Volkswagen domination in this race. Again, fastest laps, they were incredibly close. I think about half a second between the top few cars. Similar story at Brands Hatch. Had been the sort of racing that you really hope with the lower classes of cars. Further back, there was a fantastic finish between the Mini and yet another Mark II Golf. As we round the final turn, the Mini threw itself up the inside, would get the position there with the purple Scirocco there, ready and waiting. Mark II quick down the straight, but just runs out of straight to make the move on the Mini. Good last corner overtake from the Mini there, and the Scirocco just unable to do anything in this little battle. Our final race would go to the Yas Marina circuit. Now, we'd seen curbs be a little bit of an issue at Brands Hatch, admittedly not helped by the rain. Again, this is another track. Curbs are quite fearsome, especially in these cars. You know, a lot of these cars are around £2,000, if not lighter in some cases. Got to be careful with the very bouncy curbs. Unfortunately, not the cleanest of starts. A few vehicles having to take some avoiding action across the curbs there, and there is an awful lot of cars trying to fit into a small piece of racetrack. I think they're about 5 wide at one point, with one Civic quite a bit off the track. That's a big gaggle of cars all trying to fit through. Now, these are probably two of the tougher corners on the track. Admittedly, again, when you're talking about E-Class cars, it's not too bad. Fairly easy flat out through these turns on with these cars on these opening laps, but yeah, a little bit of paint swapping went on at the start of the race. It did sort itself out fairly quickly as cars got slower cars got shuffled back. As Lancia Fulvia was trying to cling on to position against a Civic and a Scirocco. The Fulvia, much like the Williams Clio, starts right at the very top of E-Class. There's not very much that you can do to it, so a difficult car to choose for this race, and the Fulvia was struggling a little bit. The Civic got a little bit caught out, just stuck behind the Lancia. The Scirocco couldn't quite get itself to the inside in time. Lancia, though, struggling for that straight line speed. Honda would come streaming past on the run down towards the first corner. Volkswagen a little bit too far back into the braking zone, tries to go around the outside, but that gap is always going to vanish through these opening corners. Scirocco would have to wait another couple of turns, but was looking likely to find a way past. Further back, Scirocco into the braking zone at the final corner would run wide, allowing a Civic to pounce, spots the gap up the inside. And again, while the field was a little bit more spread out than it was at Brands Hatch, there was plenty of groups of 2-3 cars racing against each other, and this Scirocco versus Civic battle would go on for the entirety of the race. Scirocco up ahead, struggling for the straight line speed, while the Civic, not quite fast enough, almost gets himself past, although it is quite difficult with the tightness of the opening chicane here. Can be a little bit problematic. The groups at the front did actually start closing up as the race. Normally the gaps get larger. Well, the group here was getting rather frantic by the mid-race. This purple Fiesta keen to try and make his way up through the field. A great move around the outside of the Fulvia. The Lancia really struggling in this lot to keep pace with some of the quicker cars. I had started right at the back and was joining in the fun here, while the Scirocco's around the outside of the Mini. The Fiesta, again, keen to spot that gap and just follow the car ahead through. Once the door is open, when you've got this quicker group of cars lining up behind you, they really do just pile their way past Fiesta, now keen to chase down the Scirocco. The Mini is now fighting with the Lancia. Lancia getting himself to the inside and would get the pass done. These guys would continue their four-way battle. Further back, the white Scirocco quick through the corners, but very much struggling in terms of straight line speed. Save of the day would go to the purple Scirocco. It's completely backwards coming through this next turn. Just gets on the curb. We saw the white Scirocco go over at turn 1 at Brands Hatch. The purple Scirocco, a massive slide from the curb. Does an incredible job again. Front-wheel drive cars, when you get things that badly wrong, you boot it and you hope that the car can sort itself out. Amazingly doesn't lose any positions. for pretty much a spin coming into a corner to have not lost any positions is really very well done. Now the Civic is fighting with that Scirocco, the white car, so fast through the turns, but lacking massively in terms of straight line speed. The Civic is to the outside and would get the pass done as they dive under brakes into the final turn. It was all go. It was all go here at Yas Marina. Second place was coming up for contention. The red Fulvia struggling a little bit when fighting against the Civics here. Fiesta out at the front was just got that gap, built up that gap early on while the cars further back were fighting, evenly matched again in terms of lap time, but having built up such a gap was managing to stay out of trouble. And of course, when second is fighting like this, it really, really does help. The Civic to the inside. The blue Civic spots a gap trying to go around the outside of the Lancia. Lancia kind of, I think, perhaps sort of dives slightly out of the way of the Civic, catches the car behind out. Little bits of track extending going on, but everyone's staying out of accidents, so everybody gets away with it. As I said, at the front it would be a Fiesta that would go on to claim victory here. Had a good start and stayed out of trouble. We're seeing this time and time again. If you can get that little bit of a margin out at front, it is so hard when cars behind are busy fighting each other. Of course, you've got to make sure not to make any mistakes yourself, but it is a good victory for the Fiesta. Civics would claim second and third place. Not quite Volkswagen domination at Yas Marina. I always love racing the lower class cars. You get some of the best, some of the most exciting, and some of the closest racing, and this was an awful lot of fun. I think I came about 8th place, maybe 7th place in the final race at Yas, but I had so much fun racing these cars closely. There was so much going on, and it's actually quite a difficult one to edit in many ways, especially at Brands Hatch. There was stacks happening at whatever position it was in the race. So much action, so much overtaking. Lime Rock a little bit more spread out. Again, Yas, there were some big groups of cars fighting for position. It was a lot of fun. I love racing these sort of cars. They are, make for some truly incredible, exciting racing, some impressive overtakes as well. However, that is going to be it for this video, guys. The next Versus Community shall be on Thursday, the 1st of September. We are going to be doing a manufacturer battle. We're going to do B-Class Toyotas versus Hondas. If you would like to sign up and take part in that, then you can via our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the Failrace versus the community section, and you can sign up in there. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.